All good to go.
Okay. Hold on, I just got a text. Yeah, it's from Tom. Trying to get in. Host has not allowed me in yet.
What do you say?
Trying to get on with Zoom. Host has not allowed me in yet.
Shouldn't ask that.
Oh, he probably didn't put in the passcode. Right? That's all you need to do, right?
I don't know how to let him in because
I don't think you need to. I just think you have to enter the passcode, and once you enter the passcode, you're in.
yeah,
And you have to register ahead of time.
right.
So, I'll see what he says. He says he did.
And you,
Can you send him the link to this meeting just in case he
yep.
on meeting? Or if you don't have your computer, I might be able to do it.
Yeah, I'd have to go down to my office.
Okay, I'll do it. Hold on. Yeah. No, so the iPad's still thinking. Says Tom says my live feed is on, but says host has another meeting in progress. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means either.
All right. Well, I'm going to begin going because we're 8 minutes beyond schedule.
Your volume is a little low. I don't know if you can pump up your.
I'll have to talk loudly because my volume is at full volume.
Okay.
I call the meeting to order at 5:38 p.m. on Wednesday, September 25th, 2024. I don't believe we can approve the minutes for September 18th because I know Bonnie nor I were there. I think, were you there, Bonnie?
On the 18th of September?
Yes.
Last week, I was here.
Okay, and Therese, you were there.
Yep.
All right, so we can approve them. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from September 18th?
I move.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And I abstain because I was not at that meeting. All right. Okay, so now we're going to begin the hearings that are on the agenda. And the first hearing is Beeman on the 02021062.000. This is 43 Castle Hill Road.
John?
Yes.
I'm not sure if I have a conflict, so I want to say it right now. You guys can tell me.
Okay.
She lives on my street, or I live on her street. I go by her house every night. We're friends, but not, we're not that friendly in terms of
neighbors.
Yeah, we speak when we see each other. So, I mean, I think
I'm also neighbors with Therese, and I probably know most of you, so.
I believe I can be impartial, but I thought I should just bring it up.
No, that's good. I don't think that's a conflict of interest living on the same street. We all live in the same town, or most of us do. So,
As long as you don't care.
So Emily, would you please sit down at the table and make sure that mic is turned on?
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who is going to be testifying on this here in this matter?
Not for 43 Castle.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so I sent documents, I assume,
No, we have to go through a process.
sorry, I'm a little nervous.
That's all right. So the first thing we have to do is we have to put you and the assessor under oath. So Russ and Emily, could you please raise your right hand? Under the pains and penalty of perjury, do you solemnly swear that the evidence you give in this cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Okay. Emily, have you received a copy of the rules of procedure?
Yes, I have.
Great. We've already discussed a potential conflict of interest with Bonnie, who is a neighbor, and that is not a conflict of interest. Have there been any ex parte communications between any members of the BCA and the appellant?
Nope.
Nope.
No.
Great. All right. Russ, would you like to introduce the property on appeal by describing the property and its present valuation?
Okay, sure. We've got a property at 43 Castle Hill Road. It's land and building. It's 0.76 acres. And we have a dwelling classified. Let's see what we classify it. No, it's classified as Victorian, I guess, is the style of the house. And the current value is $453,680.
Great. Thank you very much, Russ. All right. Now, Emily, you can present your case.
Okay, so going through the subject property description, effective year built, it was built in 1911. It's a Victorian. It was not built in 1991. And the condition is listed as average. To be honest with you, I raised 4 children. I'm a full-time teacher, and I have very little time and effort to put into the house. So it's in poor condition. I said fair because I was trying to be nice, but I've recently I sent Teresa a document that showed I have an energy analysis done. It was pretty much off the charts as far as energy efficiency, meaning that there is no energy efficiency there. You also list a basement area of 1,569 square feet. It's primarily, I mean, it's the original basement. It's wet. I have 3 sump pumps, but it's still wet. So it's really not a functional basement. It's musty and not usable. I do have stuff down there, but it's only because I have no other place to put the stuff. And then the comps that you guys came up with, or whoever came up with, I felt were not reflective of the property. The only one that I would use is the 18 Castle Hill Road that is pretty much across the street from my home. It recently sold, well, 305,000. You guys have it listed as 308,000 for an assessed value. And to be perfectly honest with you, they Airbnb that property. It's absolutely beautiful inside. They've done amazing amount of work, and I've seen it because, you know, I've looked at the Airbnb listing. So that one, you guys have it listed as average condition. I would say it's good or good plus.
I also provided you guys with a copy of other properties that I thought were fair. So 32 Lyle Hill sold in September for 385. I think that's a fair comp. And 50 Ray Hill sold in April of 2023 for 381. I think that's a fair comp. The other ones that you guys have on here, like Adam Bernald's house on Route 9 East, I actually called him and I said, Adam, what state was your house in when you sold it? And he said, oh, new wiring, new heating, new electrical, new septic system. Obviously, they had put a lot of work into it in order for it to sell for 388. And again, I just didn't think that was comparable since it was in pristine condition as compared to mine. So I also had recent work done. So I have a photograph of windows. All of my windows need to be replaced, but Lonnie Page from down the street did one of the, well, two of the basement windows because they're rotting. And I was afraid it was going to cause structural damage. So he replaced posts, and he said that I pretty much have to replace all of them. So, I mean, I'm assuming you'll send somebody out to look at the house and you'll see all of these things I'm discussing.
Yes, we will have an inspection team go out to the house.
Okay. Anything else I need to?
No, do you have anything else to say?
No.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yep.
Russ, would you like to respond?
Okay, sure. Yeah, on the issue of the effective year, that's something we have to do because we have to try to determine a reasonable depreciation for it. So the actual year built is 1911, but if we plug that into the system, it would depreciate the house down to nothing. So we have to come up with, so it's not that bad. So we have to try to determine how much depreciation. So the 1991 creates a depreciation about 26%, which seems to be reasonable to me. But from what you're saying, it could be a little on the high side if the condition of your house is, not what we would call average.
Right.
The energy efficiency thing, that's not something we handle it in any way because we don't know. We're not qualified to determine the energy efficiency.
Yeah, that's why I brought you the report.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. The sump pumps, that's an issue. We have a negative adjustment that we make for basements that have sump pumps, so that can be updated, and that would make an adjustment for the basement.
Okay.
Now, also, is it a dirt floor?
It's dirt in parts of it.
Okay, that's another thing. So if we had an estimate of how much was dirt, we plug that into the system also, and it would make a negative adjustment for the portion that's dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as the counts go, the counts I don't generate. We have a modeling system, and it goes through and looks all the attributes of the building. It compares everything between your house, and it finds recent sales, and it does a comparison and automatically comes up with the comparables. If it can find 5 comparables, it prints them out. If it only can find 2 or 3 or whatever, then that's all we have that we can use that come from the town. So those are used to determine a comparable sales value, which we don't use directly. The comparable sales value and comparables are used for support documents if they do support the value. So in this case, if you look at I don't know if you have a copy of the
I do.
comparable spreadsheet. If you look in the bottom left-hand corner, it actually gives a value based on the market comparables that are being used. So that's an automatically calculated function based on the comparability of the 5 comparables that the computer selected.
Okay.
So that's how ours comes up with. So you the comparables you have may be, good comparables also, but our system didn't pick them up.
Well, one was a new sale, maybe that's why.
Yeah, and the other issue, apparently the town has classified your property as a short-term rental.
Yes, it does.
So it's a one-bedroom short-term rental.
Yep.
Okay. And we did make some corrections at the grievance. We corrected the room count and the bath count.
Yep.
And I think that's all I have.
Okay. Yeah, Eric Springer's house, 72
Emily?
Castle Hill was one of the comps and
Emily,
yeah.
it's not your turn to speak.
Oh, sorry.
Just hold on, yeah, let him.
Do any members of the BCA have any questions?
Did you have a value in mind? Or you
Thank you,
thought?
Therese. That's the exact question I wanted to ask.
I want to keep it where it is,
Which
or
is-
where it was before it was reassessed,
Which was,
which was 398,680.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay, let me see if I have it. So just to clarify on the document you sent us with the comparables,
Yep.
those are actual sales. They're not listings. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that that was the case.
Yep.
Okay. That is all the questions I have. Does anybody else have any questions from the board? I hear none, so okay. Russ, do you want to talk more about how you came up with your values, or have you provided enough evidence?
Well, all the properties are valued the same way through the market-driven cost approach. But like I said, we can make some adjustments to lower the value based on the issue of the basement, being wet, dirt floor, and sump pumps.
And the condition of the house, right?
Well, yeah, the board, when the board visits it, they'll make a decision on, what, if it's average. So what we do is when we call it average, we say it's average for age. So if you have an older house, it has to go through periods where, it starts to deteriorate, and then you have to put some work into it, and then it deteriorates. And so going back to 1911, then obviously you had to do some work along the line somewhere.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else, Russ? Okay. Emily, do you want to say anything else?
No, I'm staying here for the next house though.
Okay, that's perfectly fine. But the next thing we need to do is actually appoint an inspection committee of at least 3 BCA members to inspect the property and set a time and date to do that inspection. So, if there's only 3 of us, we are the inspection team. So we just need to schedule a date and time with you to inspect the property. And it would be wonderful if we could do both properties on the same date and at around the same time.
Okay.
When are you available?
I mean, I'm a school teacher. I can be available if I need to be.
Okay.
Better after 3.
Okay. We can do it after 3. Bonnie?
Pretty flexible this month, but next month I get a little tied up.
Okay. Therese?
The end of this week is no good for me, but I'm good after that.
Okay. Would Monday work for everybody?
Monday works for me,
Is that are we talking about the 28th?
30th.
The 30th. I can't do the 30th.
30th.
I can do Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
Okay. Tuesday work for everybody?
Tuesday's good for me.
Okay. Bonnie?
What is the date on Thursday again? I'm sorry.
October 1.
October 1. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay, and Emily, you said after 3?
That would be great.
All right,
3 o'clock is fine even. I can,
okay. 3 p.m. Okay, and we'll start at 43 Castle, and then as soon as we get done with that inspection, we'll move on to the Boyd Hill property.
okay,
Does that work?
that's fine with me.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you very much for coming to testify.
thank you.
But stay right where you are because.
Yep, I'm just getting my son up here.
Okay, so the next hearing is again Beeman. The property number is 00901060, 572 Boyd Hill Road. And
Thank you.
okay, Emily, you're sworn in. Russ is already sworn in. I guess your son needs to be sworn in. What's your name?
Travis.
Travis. Okay. Travis, under the pains and penalties of perjury, do you solemnly swear that the evidence you give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Good, thank you. All right, we've already gone through this, but I'm going to ask you again. You've received the rules of procedure, correct?
Yes.
Are there any BCA member conflicts of interest or ex parte communications with respect to this property?
Nope.
Not for me.
No, none. Good. All right, Russ, would you like to do a brief description of the property and its value?
Okay, so the property is located at 572 Boyd Hill Road. It's land and building. We have it's a log cape. And there's 114 acres, which is enrolled in current use. There's 108.38 acres that's enrolled in current use. And there's 5.7 acres that's excluded. There's 90.3 acres that are classified forest and 18 acres that is classified as agricultural land. The current value is $681,060. That's the market value, but the assessed value is reduced based on the fact that the land is in current use. That's the description.
Thank you. All right. All right. Emily and Travis, you're up to present your case.
So I guess I'll begin. I grew up in that house and moved away for college and recently moved back into the house about 2 years ago, back to the area due to family circumstances. And essentially my other parent had been living there who passed away back in 2022. And the house was neglected for a long period of time while she struggled with health issues. And so since the past 2 years, I've been living there. I'm trying to make the house inhabitable again. And it still needs a lot of work. I think average is I think about where maybe a little generous, but just looking at the comps that you were provided or we were provided based on the system calculation, it seems like all of these other properties have been more renovated, more updated. There's I think just more work and updates put into these other properties. In terms of the 572 property, it hasn't been renovated. It's all original flooring, carpeting. I mean, there's the deck was all rotted. We've had insects and pest issues, so which I've been trying to address and make it a place to live again for myself and my siblings and my mom. So So I mean, it still has a long way to go. But I mean, I've provided or took pictures basically of the work that I've been doing that still needs to be done. But yeah, I provided some documents with other properties that we thought were more comparable. So yeah, a property at 92 Whites Road that was listed for 480.
Sold for 480.
Sold for 480. Take over.
Yeah, so then there's also one right up the street from us that is a 6-bedroom cape, so it's a little larger, but it's 624 Boyd Hill. You guys also used that as a comp. It's sold for 555 November 2022. I think part of the reason that the value is so high is because you're giving us a land value of $321,250. I know you think 114 acres might be worth that, but when we bought it for $100,000. It was because it was Act 250 and most of the property is wetlands and cannot be developed. Or if you could find an engineer that could find ways around it, I guess these days you can get around Act 250, but when we purchased it, we were told there was probably one building site on the entire property, and that's where we built. So in my documentation to the town, it's listed as Act 250 regulations regarding land use and development. I also think that some of these other properties, like the Sturgis Road property, is beautiful. It's got a beautiful view. We have no view. It's a cutout. We had really great people that came and did the excavation work, but it's basically, it was so the kids could play football in the yard. And there's no view there at all. The Roostons have a lovely view of our property on the other side of Boyd Hill, but yeah, we don't have a view.
Anything else?
I think the only other thing that I noticed was, some of these other properties that you use, Lyle Hill, and the Course property. I mean, I'm familiar with both of those. They have private ponds. We have a beaver pond that continues to sort of be we'll call it a nuisance instead of some of the other things I might say about it. But they have garages and cabins and outbuildings and stables even at the Sturgis property. We don't have any of that. It's really 114 acres of, as you know, forest land, and we allow the Morrises to bring their cows and graze there.
Okay. Anything else?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Russ, would you like to respond?
Sure. So, the comps that I included, I was having trouble finding comps because of the size of the land. So typically we can't compare properties that have, small acreage to yours because you got 114. So even the computer had a hard time finding anything, of that size. So if you look at the other comps, like Lyle Hill is 76 acres and Green Road is 87 acres. Sturgis is 73. So that was one of the primary criteria in trying to come up with comparables based on the land size. The issue of the land value, the market value we have on the land now is $321,250, but the assessed value is only $89,470 based on the current use reduction. So if you look at the property record card that is printed, if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, it shows you the true tax value for the land versus the actual assessed value for the land. So if you add that to the building value, then that comes up with the actual assessed value, which you'll be paying taxes on. You're not paying taxes on the 681,000.
Right.
And there isn't any view or location factor. We don't use the term view because it's an intangible. It's very subjective. So basically we try to make adjustments from the base values based on the location. So the location of the house determines the view, or if it's in a nicer neighborhood, a picturesque neighborhood, then we would put a location factor on property. So some of the other comps have a location factor, but yours doesn't have. It's just a base rate of $60,000 for the first 2 acres. And then the additional 3.7 acres that's excluded from current use is only valued at $3,800. So the total land value, the taxable land value for the excluded land is only $63,800.
I don't understand why the assessed value went up from 498,590 then to 681,060.
Emily,
Yeah.
you're not just allowed to.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Oh, so I'm okay. If you want to ask a question, that's fine.
Okay, well, first, do the members of the BCA have any questions? All right, well, I have one, which is the same one that Teresa asked. What would you propose should be the value for this property?
Well,
Looking back to 2022, I think that was about right, around 500,000.
So you're saying the 2022 assessed value is the correct value? Is that what I'm hearing?
well, I mean, like 450,000 if you look at the comps.
Okay, so you're saying 450,000.
Yep.
I just want to make sure we understand what you're looking for.
Okay.
One question I had, and this goes to your comps both for this property and the other one, is did you do any adjustments to these values based on the difference in the property?
I'm not, I don't know how to do that. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Does any other member of the BCA have a question? Okay.
Nope, all set.
Well, can I say something?
Yes, go ahead, Russ. I was about to turn to you.
Okay, so if you look at the property record card, it shows the history of the value. And going back to 2018, that's the oldest date we could put in our system, but that date, probably that original value, the $490,000 in 2018 was probably a 2009 value when they did the reappraisal last time. So the value 2019 stayed the same because there's no reappraisal or anything. Then when the reappraisal was done in 2020, went up to 575,000. The property was grieved in 2020, and it was reduced down to 498,000. And then the difference, then it stayed at 498, then it went up for the reappraisal. The market for the last 3 years, I just had a meeting with the state. In Vermont, they're saying property values have gone up 30% in the last 3 years alone, 10% a year for the last 3 years. So that's why that's the big increase, and that's why we had to do a reappraisal, because the values in Wilmington were below where they should be, and the state said we had to do a reappraisal based on statistics. So the townwide, I think the grand list went up 45% overall, based on the new market. And again, our numbers are on the conservative side. we're finding sales that are coming in now are much higher than what we even put in the system for the 2024 reappraisal. So it's a moving target, and we do the best we can with the information we have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Emily, do you want to add anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, any additional questions from the Board of Civil Authority?
Was there other materials you intended
Do you want to? Get those
to
pictures?
turn in for? Travis had mentioned some photographs, so
Okay.
that's fine. I will share it. I will share it with the board.
All right, so we've already set an inspection date and time for this property. So thank you very much for coming today and participating in this process. We will see one or both of you on October 1st.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Therese, I've been in contact with Tom, and so we can call him and have him participate in the other hearings at this point.
We can call him.
We can call him. I think there's a phone there, correct?
Not anymore.
Oh,
I
great.
can call him with my cell.
All right, try that and see if you can hear.
You got a number for him?
Yes. 802 345 0809.
Can you tell him I'm calling him and it'll be a 413 number? So he doesn't think it's spam.
Yep, texting him right now.
Hello from the BCA.
Okay, PCA. I'm still seeing your thinking that so many I guess you're not gonna that's all right.
Well, that's weird. I don't know why it's saying that. Hmm.
I've not seen that before, but hey, live and learn. I'm all set.
Okay. Glad you could join us.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we'll go on to our next hearing, which is OSEC. The property number is 021-22026.000. It's at 1 School Street.
Hello, Steve Goldfarb.
Bill Taylor?
You.
Melody.
So just because Tom and I aren't there, could you please identify the documents that you just produced?
Yes, I can list them off. We have some notes, it's pretty much what Steve's going to say are the first 2 pages. And then we have, I'm not sure if this is called the lister card. It's sort of the notice that we get in the mail of the new assessed value.
It's the change in appraisal notice.
2 change in appraisal notices, the most recently received. And then we have details from the town of Wilmington Grand List parcel report for one of them. And then we have the lister cards for the same 2 parcels, initially talked about. And then we have, and I apologize, this is a lot. I didn't read the last thing saying that I needed to send these to Therese in advance.
Well, that would have been very helpful because it's going to be very difficult to have this hearing given that at least 2 of the BCA members and Russ don't have those documents in front of them.
Right, sorry.
Everyone else has produced documents ahead of time.
I can quickly place them in Dropbox if you'll find that helpful.
It probably would be.
Hey, give me 2 minutes.
Thank you.
And then we have a statement of cash flows for the last 2 years. And then the statement of activity for the last 2 years. And a list of 4 comparable properties, or the most comparable possible that were found that were sold in the last 3 years. That's all.
Okay. Well, while we're waiting for Therese to come back with putting the documents in Dropbox so that Tom and I and Russ can see them, I can swear you all in, and Russ. So who's testifying? All of you? All three of you?
Believe so.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Under the pains and penalties of perjury, do you solemnly swear that the evidence you give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Russ, why don't you just present the property and then we'll.
Okay, so this is again, one School Street. It's a little more complicated than typical because it's actually a building that is partly exempt and partly taxable. And one of the new.
Russ, why don't we wait till Therese gets back to hear that? I think.
Okay, sure.
She probably
Okay.
needs to hear that. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
All right, I placed it in Dropbox. It's called OSEC Night of Materials.
Okay.
I did not separate them, so
That's fine.
as they describe them, you can flip through.
All right, hold on. I just want to get to them before we move on. Okay, I have them. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Russ, do you want to give your brief description of the property that I interrupted?
Okay.
Sorry.
Yep. Yeah, we got one School Street. It's a unique property because it's a larger building that is mostly tax exempt and partially taxable. So actually what we did this year, we had to create two accounts. That's typically the way it's done. So there's an account for the exempt portion and there's an account for the taxable portion. So basically based on the information we received, the owner stated that 25% of the building was taxable. So the property record cards, if you look on the property record cards, it basically shows the same as a sketch and everything's the same on the back of the card. But if you look in the bottom right-hand corner on either card, one shows the 25% complete and the other one shows 75% complete, which generates the 25% value or the 75% tax exempt. So I don't think there's any issue or concern about the exempt portion of it. It's the taxable portion, I believe. And so basically, the value is calculated for the whole building. And then I just took 25% of it and used that as the assessment for the reappraised value. it's hard to get comparables because it's only part of a building. It's not a whole building. So I didn't try to find any comparables on it. So typically if there aren't any quality comparables, then the best indication of value is based on the income approach. So the property owner provided us a rent roll, which gave the rents that are currently being rented and how much they're getting from each of the tenants. But it appears that they're only leasing about 50% of the allowable space. Now, when we value, we have to value the property, or the value is calculated based on how much is usable, how much is rentable. So they're basically saying, and they agreed that the rentable area is about a little over 11,000 square feet. But the documentation we received earlier, they were saying that they've only rented about 5,258 square feet. But typically on doing an income approach, we don't use the actual income. We have to try to determine what the market rent should be. And their information stated that they're getting a little over $3, or a little over $3 a square foot, which seems to me to be a very low rate per square foot, which is something that they determine based on, however much money they want to get from the revenue from the building. So if that appears to be below market, so what I did was I included a brief income approach, which is basically on 2 sheets. And I just ran this through the computer system to try to generate what we thought might be a reasonable market value based on the income approach, using what I believe are market rents for office space. So there's 2 documents. There's one. There's 2 screenshots. These are actually screenshots from the computer system. One shows the detail of the calculation, and the other one shows just a summary page. So based on using the allowable square footage of 11,000 and change square feet, and using a rate per square foot of $9 a square foot, not $3 a square foot, it generated an income value of about $405,900, which is higher than what we have for our assessment, which is based on market-driven cost approach and using 25% of the building value. So there is some of a correlation. The value could be higher, it could be lower, based on the condition of the building. We just put it in as I actually put it in as a fair quality building, and I put it in fair condition, saying that it's not what I would consider average for office space. I guess that's good enough. That's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you very much, Russ. All right, who is going to speak?
I guess I'll start, if that's okay.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Go right ahead.
So we were looking at this, and the first page was printed out really more for my knowledge of.
Can I stop you a second? Did you do oaths, John?
Yes, I did. Well,
Thank you. Go ahead, sorry.
No problem. Yeah, page 1 really was from my own knowledge and what is the assessed value. But it does say that primary responsibility is to determine the fair market value of the property. So that's what we're kind of basing things on. And with the property in the condition that it's in, the size that it is, where it is, our assessment of, if it were put on the market today, no one would buy it for $10. So the true market value is between $0 and $10 in our assessment, because of the expenses of, well, a couple of different things. 7 of the 9 acres are in a flood zone, so that kind of takes 7 acres out of the picture. And the condition of the building itself, under number 2 there, if someone were to buy it, I actually made a mistake in typing this earlier. If they were to take it down, that 600K number really should be over $1 million. That's number 2 on page 2 that I have there. So just for taking it down, the 600,000 was for the old part of the school, the 1900s portion of the building. So to take the whole school down and do something else with the property, definitely over $1 million. As far as fixing it up and using it and making more rentable space and more usable space, to actually gain a sizable income with, you'd be looking at putting in $5 million to make it usable. So to buy the property for $10 and then put $5 million in would be the necessity of someone buying the property. That should be the true value. Moving on from there, so based on the income and profits, we did that as well. And we've got an all-volunteer crew, so there's no money going out in that direction for staffing. There is cleaning costs, there are other costs, obviously. And on one of the pages that we've provided here, we've got the amount of money that we take in versus the amount of money that we pay out. We are still taking in a lot of this money via donations.
So Steve, just to stop you for a minute, what document are you referencing right now? Just so everybody's on the same page.
I'm counting pages here. We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Title.
What
The
are the-
titles of them are the Old School Merchant Council Statement of Cash Flows and Old School
Okay.
Merchant Council Statement of Activity.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. So we still have an all volunteer board, and we rely on donations, individuals, fundraising through events, and funds from town. So we're not making any money. Any money that comes in is being used to repair mostly and maintain what we have there. We definitely have had upgrades, and I would say that being nice, I would say in 12 years, we might have a building that would be totally functioning if we can keep the donations coming in. Just to go back a little bit of history. So previously, the assessment was $150,000 with an exemption of $81,164 for the nonprofit portion of the building. And part of that was based on school usage as well. But we're now, I was looking at the now assessed numbers, and I just understand now what the assessor has said. Second. Yeah. So you really bought the property for $1, going back 8, 9 years ago, I think it was. We put an assessment on at the time. We all agreed upon $150,000 just to have a number for the tax man. But the true value of the property, we feel, is really $0. Whatever value you guys can put on that that's lower than $150,000 would be appreciated. I don't know if you want us to go into any numbers as far as those 2 pages that Mel mentioned.
Well, that's up to you. It's your case. It's your burden of persuasion.
But maybe we'll just clarify that, that none of this is profit money.
So looking at the statement of cash flows, as we mentioned earlier, You know, the top is gonna have the net revenue, which is all the income and operating expenses. So you can look at that, but then I also want you to look at the capital improvements, just towards the middle of that page. To see how much we're bringing money, but, you know, just like Steve said, this is the amount going to those improvements for the building. Most of them are kind of, they're absolutely necessary, heating system, and Phil can, you know, speak more on all of that, but I just want to be clear that, you know, to show that's kind of the movement of the cash for the last 2 years.
And if I could just add just a couple comments on the condition of the building. As some of you may know, I was the school board member who led the consolidation process, which caused the school to be abandoned. So I'm quite familiar with the building, and I'm currently the building manager for OSEC. I just can't reiterate how much deferred work has been done on this building, especially as a school, as it was owned by a school. It hasn't had any major upgrades really at all, except for the boiler system. A lot of the work goes into is just maintaining and stopping bad things from happening, just keeping our head above water, not really adding value to the house, to the building. And as Steve said before, when the school board owned the building and we were tasked with getting rid of it, we were willing to give it the building away, to take it off our hands. But the fact remains, as Steve had pointed out, that it's a liability. It's a liability. If someone wanted the land, build something else out there, they're going to put in north of $1 million just to do the tear down and all the excavation work. Studies that we've had done by Breadloaf, well, originally with the school and then later with Stevens Associates, you know, you're looking at $5 to $7 million to bring the building up to a relatively decent state where it would, you know, have some longevity to it. So I just can't emphasize enough that when we're looking at valuation, to understand or appreciate that there's significant liabilities attached to the building.
And one more thing if I can, just we talked about a little bit about the price per square foot that we are renting to folks, and that those dollar amounts are between $9 and $12 per square foot. I'm not sure what people were looking at earlier, but anyone that's in the building is paying between $9 and $12 per square foot.
Okay, thank you. Anything else before I ask Russ to respond? Okay.
Yeah, so basically, you know, we're not even looking at the building value. All we're considering is the rentable space that is income producing. So what the condition, if the building is in need of repair, but you're still getting revenue, so you can't say there's no value to the building because you're renting it, leasing it, and we're only valuing the portion of the building that you're renting. So it's not reasonable to say the building has no value. Obviously it does, just on the 25% that you're renting. And so we're not even talking about the whole building. We're just talking about the rental area of about 11,000 square feet. And if it generates value, if it generates income, it has to have a value. That's standard procedure for valuing income producing property. And based on my calculation, I used the $9 a square foot, which is right on what you were saying. So that 400,000 is probably a reasonable value. Your expenses may be higher, but I actually used a 50% expense ratio, which is high. So typically for office, you may have a 35% expense ratio. I used $4.50, which is 50% ratio. So I think the value that we have on it, 300,000, is reasonable for the space that you're renting. And forgetting about the rest of the building, we're not valuing the land, we're not valuing any of there's outbuildings. So there's no taxes on that at all, regardless of, what the actual building is worth itself. So it has functionality, it has income, and so to say it has no value is not true. And then why would you be investing more into the building if it has no value now? So I think that our value is very reasonable.
Else, Russ? Do you have anything else you want to say, or?
No, I'm all set.
Okay, great, thank you. Any questions from the boards of civil authority?
I have one, John.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
They mentioned 7 out of the 9 acres is in flood zone, but when we've been studying the building, I don't think we came up with that. I wondered where they got that ratio.
It's actually in a report from, I think it was in this report from what Scott Tucker had done, or something from an attorney back in 2017.
You'll have to ask John if you can.
It's sort of a response to the question, but I want to clarify the question.
I couldn't hear that. Could you repeat that, please?
John, can I clarify her question?
Yes, please.
Are you speaking on the building parcel or on the land parcel? Because we seem to have two different valuations.
I'm talking about the entire property that we've been looking at. And according to the zoning administrator, there's only a small portion that's in the floodplain. I mean, we know the field floods, but I just wondered where this came from, how this was arrived at.
Not seeing it on here. I thought that I got it off of this document, but we can try and look further at that. And I don't mind if you change it to a different numbers. The fact is more than half of it's in floodplain. I saw the 7 and the 9 somewhere, and
I was just curious because like I said,
yeah. No, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Are there any other questions from the Board of Civil Authority? I have a question, which is, you mentioned a couple of what you believe are the fair market values for the property. What number are you seeking tonight for us to value the property at?
Proposed value.
Honestly, $50,000, but I have no problem being at $100,000. Even if we were staying at $150,000, I suppose.
You want to choose one of those numbers?
$100,000.
Which number was that?
$100,000.
Okay, $100,000. And how did you arrive at that?
I'm trying to be very generous and say that we understand that you think there's value in the property.
Okay. Does anyone else on the Board of Civil Authority have any questions?
Nothing
Okay.
here.
All right. So the next step in this process is we need to form an inspection committee. And so there are 4 of us, Bonnie, Therese, Tom, and myself, who can do the inspection, and we need to set a date and time to do that. I know we cannot do it this week, but is there a time next week to do it? Because it's such a large building, it will obviously take some time to walk through the building.
I'm open And I can show.
So Wednesday, October 2, looks like it's available. Is there a time of day that works better for you all, folks?
I
Teresa.
cannot do,
Do we have something scheduled for other hearings on that date?
we do.
We do at night.
Tuesday, October 1st, Thursday, the 3rd. We're all pretty open.
How does Thursday sound, BCA members?
I think it works for me.
We have a board meeting for 11.
We do 11:30 or noon or 12:30 or?
Yeah, that works for me, but I just want to make sure it works for all the other BCA members that are.
What time is your board meeting?
Tom,
No, until like 11.
Tom, are you okay for 11:30, October 3rd?
I guess so, yeah. Let's do it.
Anybody want to do it before their board meeting?
I couldn't do that.
You couldn't do that.
Okay. Are we okay with 11:30 on October 3rd?
Sounds like it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
John, excuse me, sorry. Was there a chance for us to say one more thing before?
Sure, if you'd like to say one more thing, go right ahead.
Yep. Just trying to wrap my head around the fact that, yes, it's got value to the town, to the people that are using it. But market value, I don't know that it's marketable. So I guess that's the part that I'm just trying to talk to Russ about. Again, marketable, would anyone buy it? I don't believe so. It's not producing a positive income. It is producing income, but it's going right back into the structure and not producing a positive income or any assets in the end.
If I could add to that, I don't think it would be rentable under any other circumstance except through a volunteer organization.
Yeah, all volunteer board.
Because we don't have a building manager. We don't have people to take care of the building or monitor. It's all volunteer. I can't see a scenario where in the free market system, somebody could rent this building or rent that they pay. It's only possible because it's a volunteer organization.
Russ,
Thank you.
Do you want to say anything?
Well, I don't see how, if it's only worth $100,000, would they put it on the market for $100,000?
Sure.
Okay, well, I'll put an offer on.
I do sell real estate. We'll talk afterwards.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Thank you all for testifying today, and we look forward to inspecting the property on October 3rd.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Therese, who's doing the inspection on the 3rd? Are all 4 of us going? Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, the next property, the next hearing is Stewart. The property number is 00901066.000, and this is 15 Old Mill Lane. And I see that we have Mr. Stewart on Zoom.
Hello.
Hi, are you the only one testifying tonight?
Nope, there are 2 people there.
Oh,
Lisa Abraham and William Abraham.
Okay, so we have the Abrahams and we have Mr. Stewart. Okay, so.
Hi, good evening. My name is William Abraham, and this is my wife, Elise Abraham. Stuart Abraham. She and Kate own the house, and I'm the numbers guys.
Okay, so the first order of business is to swear you all in. So could you please raise your right hand? And under the pains and penalties of perjury, do you solemnly swear that the evidence you give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
I do.
Okay, and have you received the procedures for the Board of Civil Authority for this hearing?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so now I'm gonna, are there any conflicts of interest or ex parte communications from the Board of Civil Authority?
No,
Not
For me,
not here.
none here.
all right. All right, Russ, we're on to you. Could you please provide a brief description of this property? Thank you.
Okay, so the property is located at 15 Old Mill Lane. It's land and building. There's 5.8 acres. With a main building and a detached garage. Contemporary style. Built in 1988. And that's it.
Great, thank you very much.
So the current market value is $1,175,960.
All right. So who's going to be presenting the case for the appellants?
I will do.
Go ahead. It's Mr. Abraham, right?
Yes, Mr. Eber.
ahead.
Well, I will start with the comparables that were sent to me yesterday by the assessor, by Teresa. It's kind of last minute, so I didn't have enough time to really get deep into the comparables, but very quickly I realized that those comparables have nothing to do with my house. I'm not sure if a computer picked them up or a human being. It must be a human being because those four comparables are clustered within 1 minute, 2 minutes walk from each other, but 10 miles away from my house. So I'm not sure exactly what they have to do with my house or with our house. They are all part of the Hermitage Club development, a high-end private club that nothing to do with our house. And the other one is a waterfront house on Lake Rapandam. I'm not sure there is a value in your system for lakefront, unlike you, but it's a very special situation. Our house is not a special situation. It's just a regular 5.8 acres on Boyd Hill Road. So those comparables is very difficult even for me to even try to compare them to our house because there is really nothing to do with each other with our house. So I'll move to my analysis to what do I think really the value of our house is based on the property card reports that we received from the town. We received 3 property cards from the town. One is for the house on our left, Mrs. Stewart. It's 435 Boyd Hill Road. The other one is our, which is 15 Old Mill Lane. It used to be 453 Boyd Hill Road. Our address has changed to 15 Old Mill Lane because 15 Old Mill Lane was created on our driveway. So until a couple of years ago, we used to be 453 Boyd Hill Road. And now because of security, the fire department, police changed it to 15 Old Mill Lane because they couldn't find our house. It's part of the Old Mill Lane. So there are 3 houses that we are talking about. 435 Boyd Hill Road, our house, which is 453 Boyd Hill Road / 15 Old Mill Lane, and 469 Boyd Hill Road, which is the Stewart home. 435 is Ottaviano home. So those 3 homes were pretty much built together at the same time, like 1985, 86, 87, ours 88, very similar sizes. The other 2 houses sit on 15.6 acres and 17.1 acres respectively, where our house is 5.8 acres. If you look at the map, it's pretty much one continuously piece of land from the Mrs. Stewart, which is 469 to our house, 453, continue to 435 Boyd Hill Road, pretty much one continuous land, and each one has its own driveway. Nothing's different except that our house, our land is really 1/3 of the size of the other 2 houses. So when I'm looking at the property, I'm lucky we were not aware of those property cards. And thank you very much for actually someone mentioned it to us because like about 2014, when we tried to sell the house the first time by my father-in-law, before it was given to Elisa and Keith, it was on the market for a long time and we couldn't sell it. It was different market at the time, obviously. And the best bid that we got, it was 500 grand, like $500,000 that someone was willing to buy it for. And we decided not to sell it for this price, and we bought it. Elise and Kit took it from their dad. The point is that I challenged at the time the assessment of the house. It was assessed at $750,000 or $800,000, and I challenged it. And the answer that I got is that the town is not really going to go into a race to the bottom. Like the fact that the prices are lower than what the real market is. I mean, we were not going to reduce the taxes, so we accepted it. I was not aware of those property cards that showed so clearly our house is so overassessed compared to the houses next to us. Because it is very difficult to find a reason why our house is assessed about 50% higher than the two houses next to us. From before this assessment now. I'm not talking about history-wise, it already was reassessed much higher than what it's supposed to be. So we're going back to current reassessment, and there's one number that pops up right away from the land value point of view. I try to actually go into the detail of the numbers, and we see that the land value, our land value, jumped from $69,000 to $378,400, which is pretty much 600% appreciation, while our neighbors, from each side of us, appreciate about from $115,000 to $130,000, about like 12% appreciation to each one of them. Obviously, their land is more valuable, because it is about 3 times the size of ours, and none of us is as a wetland or any.
But we have a road that runs bifurcating our property. Old Mill Lane actually bifurcates our 5.8 acres, so.
Yes, okay. So there's a 5.8, so we are 5.8. Our value changed from $69,000 to $378,000, where our neighbors changed from 115 about, I'm just, like to 130. And this is something that I'm questioning. We are questioning the reason for this discrepancy. Elise mentioned that, the Old Mill Lane is running through our property. There was an easement for Old Mill Lane, and it used to be a small lane. It's more like path, and now it's a road, and it's really dividing our property. Come on. It's really dividing our property into 2 and pretty much similar divided sizes, 2 sizes and about the same size. And it made the lower part of the land not usable because of the road that goes through it now, and it's really cut our size of the land. So, but this is to the side. I mean, I'm just talking pretty much numbers to numbers, like 5.8 acres versus 15 and 17 acres. And very difficult to distinguish between them. It's not anything different. So this is one thing, the land value, its appreciation. The other thing that we are looking for, what different, in the values, I found that the quality class grade that is assigned to the structures, ours is very, remember, this is a house 1988 that was not renovated since then. Plus minus, paint and carpeting changes and regular, like upkeep. So there was no renovation for the last 35 years. And our grade is very good minus versus very, good plus and average plus for the other 2 ones. No idea why. Obviously, it's subjective, and nobody even ever, came to see this house. So it's another different that I want to challenge and see. Like this is pretty much why we have those huge discrepancy in our tax base. So we ended up with pretty much $870,000 in assessment for the value of the house, with the structure itself, which is 73 adjustment because of the very good minus value to the quality class, grade the value to a house. The regular value is $502,000 for the structure, but it became like $870,000 because it is very good minus versus the other two, which are $577,000 and $633,000, which are much less than us because of their lower quality class grade. And I bet if someone will come and check it, that we will be somewhere between those two houses. So between average plus and good plus, and I would say like good will be a fair valuation to a house. So I'm arguing that the grade is actually very good minus, not even good. I would give it to, I'm sorry, I'm arguing that very good minus assigned to the structure is clearly subjective and incorrect, especially since we are not of any recent visit or inspections to the house. So our opinion is that Old Mill Lane should be valued at good, which is, I assume based on the percentages, I see the different factors, that good is assuming a 50% factor. I might be wrong, but this is an assumption that I took. If I'm wrong, let me know. So based on the calculation, we got to the home site, which is $69,000, the previous value assigned. You multiply it by 1.2, I'll give you 20% appreciation versus the other ones, it's, similar to the other two houses, will bring us to $82,800. Residential excess, which is 3.8, is 25. I'll keep it the same as in the report card. So what we get is a total land value of $103,700,000, and this is versus the $378,400 that the assessor came, no idea how. So we're keeping the total land value at $103,700 for now to the side. It makes sense because the houses next to us, their value is $138,000, and the other one is $128,000. I mean, I assume even though we are 1/3 of their sizes, I'll take it that we are 70% of their value, kind of leverage. And now we go into the value of the house, the structure itself. The dwelling calculation, which is assuming a good value, will bring us to $754,000 value, and after depreciation of 13% will bring us to $656,000. And to this you have to add the debt guard, and I'm just using the number from the report card. We get it to a total improvement value of $696,973,000. This is what you call total improvement value of the land, which is the value of the structure. If you add this to the total land value, you get what we call Stuart Abraham calling suggested 2024 assessment value of $800,673,000. This is pretty much what we believe. It's a generous assessment of our house, the value of our property plus the house. So this is just based on the report cards that I'm looking for and my two neighbors left and right. And now we're going to go to the market data based on sales. If I'm going too fast or I'm not very clear, please stop me or ask me questions. I'm good.
You're very clear, and all this is in the documentation you provided.
Thank you. So now we're going to go to the market data. The market data, obviously it's a very, relatively rural area, and we are not having many, sales, like as because it's not, houses don't change hands very often, and they're not very close to each other. So there aren't so many points of sales, but we did find couple of them. Well, right now on the market is 624 Boyd Hill Road. By the way, the one that was mentioned earlier tonight also on Boyd Hill Road. It's on the market for $649,000. It was sold in 2022 for 555. Not sure why they're selling it so quickly, but it was sold a couple of years ago for 555, and it's on the market for a long time, at least 4 or 5 months. The 2024 assessment that you guys assigned to it is $543,000. It has 6 bedrooms and 3.5 baths, and is on 2 acres of land. It's about 6 minutes walk from our house. Now, that's the only house on sale right now on Boyd Hill Road. In the last 3 years, we believe we had 3 new comparable houses that were sold on Boyd Hill Road. One is 405 Boyd Hill Road. It's on the other side of Taviano.
Right, no, we have those in your documentation, so it's.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, okay, so you have the documentation, so you have the numbers, the comparables, and the bottom line is that we believe that the assessment, our assessment should be $800,673. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Russ, would you like to respond, please?
Sure. So getting back to our comparables, it's a combination of, input that I have and the computer system. So the computer system works on a point system. It goes through all the properties that are sold going back 3 years, and it looks at the attributes of each one. It looks at the size of the house, the quality of the house, like you mentioned, the amenities, how many bathrooms, bedrooms, all that. And it does an analysis, an automatic analysis based on a model that we've defined using sales. So it's not an automatic thing that the values determined by the comparables. Market comparable approach is not. It's not a usable methodology for doing what we call mass appraisal, because it's always it's difficult to use market comparables for everybody's property, because if there's a certain property type there and there's no sales, then how do you come up with a value? So the value that we create is called the market adjusted cost approach. So it takes the town subscribes to Marshall Institute Valuation Service, which is a nationally recognized valuation service, and the town has a license to use that system. So we plug all the attributes of the property, all the characteristics, the square footage and everything into the system, and it creates a value based on replacement cost, new less depreciation. So you had a good point as far as the quality construction. That's somewhat subjective. So it's you can have 5 people go out there and they might come up with 5 different, but since I'm the assessor and I go through all the properties, I go through one at a time and try to create equity, and based on the quality that I can see. This reappraisal it's called a statistical update. So no properties were inspected. So the state allows, whenever the state says the town has to do a reappraisal, you have the option to do a statistical reappraisal if it's within 5 years from the last one. So that's why nobody inspected your property. The BCA will go out and take a look at it, and if they think the quality is off, then that'll be their judgment. But one thing I noticed on your property was it looks like the drawing is wrong. If you look at the sketch that's on the back of the property record card, it shows, if you have that in front of you, the town property record card. It's got the picture on it of your house.
I'm sorry, I don't understand exactly what you're saying. The picture of the house?
Yeah, the card has a picture of
The property record.
Yeah, you have the property cards.
Yeah, so if you look on the back.
On the back, there's a.
On the back of.
Oh, you didn't. Yeah, on the side with the picture.
Yep, got it.
Okay, so it shows on the sketch, it shows a 2-car frame garage attached to the house. I don't think that's correct. Do you have a attached garage on your house?
Yes,
It is attached?
yes, and there's a separate garage.
I know, because, but when I'm looking at the picture doesn't match the drawing. So
There's
I'm
a,
not sure if it's rotated properly or not, but, so I just
no,
want to make
the outline that's on the card does appear correct. There's a
Okay,
two-car
that's
garage
fine.
with a concrete
I just-
slab.
Yeah, I just questioned it because it didn't look, so it's the wrong angle for the house then. Okay, that's fine. Now also, is there a hot tub that's inside the house?
No, that's outdoors.
Okay, so that should be taken off because if it's an exterior hot tub, it's considered personal property and it shouldn't be valued. If it's in the house, then it gets valued if it's outside. So that has a value that we can subtract off, or the board can subtract off because it shouldn't be in there. So that'll reduce the building value some a little bit. Yeah, as far as the old land value, I'm not sure where that came about. And then the other properties that are adjacent to yours, they should all be in the same neighborhood. So the neighborhoods are all numbered. And then each neighborhood has a different land valuation schedule. So if it's in, for some whatever reason, if it's in the wrong neighborhood, it may generate the wrong, land value. But your property is in neighborhood 18. If the neighboring properties are the ones that you think are comparable, and adjacent to your house, if they're in the same neighborhood, then they would be using the same land valuation schedule. And there's only a minor 10% increase on the 2-acre home site for property location based in that neighborhood. So, and then there's, we're saying it's a good 2-acre lot. And then it has an influence factor based on it appears to be in a good location. And the other issue, the right of way, that would affect the value of your property. So if there is a right of
I'm sorry,
way.
I'm having difficulty understanding this.
Sorry, let Russ finish, please.
Okay, so if there's.
I think he's got to slow down a little. We're having
I cannot
trouble
understand what you're
understanding.
saying.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's jumbling up a little bit.
The quality of the audio, it's so poor that
No,
it's.
let Russ finish his testimony.
Okay, well, that's what I have on my laptop. I don't know if I can do anything about the quality of is the audio okay
Fine with
now?
I can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me clearly?
Yes. I think remotely it works better than in the building there.
Oh, I see, okay.
That's true.
Yeah, so the speakers there aren't the quality, I guess, but anyway. So again, getting back to the hot tub, that should be removed. The quality of construction is something that the board can take a look at. We use Marshall and Swift valuation quality grading, but again, there's some subjectivity to it. The land value, the right of way is an issue. If there is a right of way that runs through the property, divides it, then there could be an adjustment made for the right of way, because that does affect the marketability of the lot, and that would lower the land value. So that's not something that it didn't show in the record, something we'd have to look at the map. And then if the map shows that the right of way runs through the property, and it would, that definitely would affect the market value. But based on the data that we have, yeah, I looked on Zillow. Zillow has a very sophisticated, I don't know if you're familiar with Zillow at all, but it's a valuation system, and they have a considerable database. Based on Zillow, they're saying that the property is worth over 1.2 million. Based on the data that they have, which in most cases this is the same data they get from the towns. So they buy the data from the towns, they plug it into their system. And if the data is correct, the square footage is correct, number of bathrooms, bedrooms, all that's correct, then it seems to be a reasonable valuation. So I don't know where that $69,000 value came.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat? How did you get to the I'm sorry.
He said it's on Zillow.
On Zillow?
Yeah.
That's the way you assess
I'm just saying that's a reference. No, we don't use it. We don't use it. We check it once in a while because there's very small towns in Vermont and you can't find comparables. And they're finding that because Zillow has a, sophisticated database, it gives them a reasonable guideline as to where the value might be. We don't use it in any way. We just use it as a reference. In some case, we use multiple services to get an idea of what they think, the property would be worth. But that comes from looking at comparables based on, again, the same things we're looking at. The square footage, number of bathrooms, bedrooms, and again, we always ask the property owners to check the data to make sure we have the right data.
May I ask a question about the land valuation? You said it's based on the neighborhood that we're in. The two houses on either side of us are in neighborhood.
Mr. Stewart,
Yeah,
you're not allowed to ask a question at this point.
okay, sorry.
Go ahead, Russ, and finish your testimony, please.
I think that's everything there. So there is a couple things that can be adjusted to, bring the value down a little bit, but that's all up to the board. And again, if he's got a concern about the neighborhood, that would be good to know.
Well, can
Mr.
I?
Stewart, no, it's not your turn to speak.
Sorry, I thought he asked me a question.
No, it is now the time for the Board of Civil Authority to ask any questions of either the appellant or the assessor. Do the members of the Board of Civil Authority have any questions?
I don't.
No.
All right, I do. And most of these will be directed at Russ. Russ, if we exclude the hot tub from the property, how would that change the value?
Well, if you look on the back, it's valued at $7,150.
Okay.
And that would take at least that off. It may take more off based on the quality of construction.
Okay.
So that could be the base value, and then it multiplies it by a grade factor. So it could be anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 reduction on the house.
Okay.
And again, the grade factor for the house itself, if that's in question, if the grade is reduced, then the value would come down.
And how would we verify that the two properties adjacent to this property are in the same property area? Or
Oh yeah, you just have to look.
card?
Yeah, the property card shows what neighborhood. In the upper right-hand corner, it shows that, this property is in neighborhood 18. If the neighboring properties are in a different neighborhood. Now, if they're on a different street, they may be in a different neighborhood, but if they're on the same street, they should be in the same neighborhood.
Okay. All right, Mr. Stewart, go ahead.
It's about the neighborhoods, thanks. I think possibly the issue is that our house has always been 453 Boyd Hill Road. The house to the left is in neighborhood 13. The house to the right is in neighborhood 13, but we're in neighborhood 18. So if it has been on the same street since it was built, how are we not in the same neighborhood as the house to the left and the house to the right? Just because the address changed, possibly because the address changed.
When did the address change? The property location?
The property location didn't change, but because of the 911 services, they changed it to 15 Old Mill Lane rather than Boyd Hill Road. But the house didn't move, and the houses to either side of us should be in the same neighborhood since nothing has changed. So if we're being valued according to a different neighborhood, perhaps that's incorrect.
Right.
Are the other properties on Old Mill Lane?
No, they're on Boyd Hill Road like we are or used to be.
Mm-hmm.
In 88, when the house was built, there was just like a paper, on paper, there was a little line that was for some future development, but nobody paid attention to it because it was just forest land, and that was it. And so it was just our houses built on Boyd Hill, and our particular house, the driveway went up to our house, but then it kind of continued as a snowmobile path through the forest, or we didn't think about it. And then Palmer came along and developed inside that forest. And so that now that's a road that cuts our property in two, but hasn't affected our house. I mean, it was still, we're just our same 1988 house. The other houses down Old Mill Lane are further down away from us, and we're not a part of their neighborhood.
See, once we had the development down the road, Old Mill Lane development, our driveway became also 453 Boyd Hill Road driveway became also Old Mill Lane.
We understand. that.
Actually, so 911 could not find our house if we had to call them.
We understand that.
Okay, so this is the reason why we are on 15 Old Mill Lane, but the house is still in the same place, was not moved.
We understand that.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so now we need to schedule an inspection of the property. So the members of the Board of Civil Authority need to come out and inspect your property and look at it. And so that will determine things like quality and just confirm what's on the property card. So
Thank you. I just want to
we're moving on to the scheduling inspection.
okay, yeah.
So we need a date and a time.
Can we do Tuesday, October 1st, like 1 p.m.
We've got a 3 o'clock
We do have a 3 o'clock.
and we have one right after that.
We do? Oh, we have two properties at 3.
Yes, we have 2 properties that day, one at 3 and then the next one right after that.
Okay. What time did you say, Mr. Abraham?
1 o'clock.
You said 1 o'clock?
If 1 o'clock works, yeah.
Let's check with the BCA. Does that work for Bonnie or is that a problem?
No,
Okay. Anybody else have an issue with that time?
No, Tom? Sounds good.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay. I think that concludes this hearing. So thank you very much for taking the time to come here tonight and testify. We will see one or all of you at the property. I just want to remind you when we're at the property, there can be no communications between the inspection team and the owners of the property.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. All right, so now we'll move on to the next hearing, which is Wilson. The property number is 00901.056.100 Boyd Hill Road. All right, and I see on Zoom, Mr. Wilson, I believe? Yes. Excellent. Is anyone else going to be testifying besides Mr. Wilson?
Thanks, folks. Have a good night.
Just you? I can't hear you, sir. I think you're on mute. Yes, you are on mute. Now I can't see you either.
I can only ask them to unmute.
Yeah, I know. So you should see in the bottom, there you go. You're
There
on
we
mute.
go. Okay.
Excellent. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
So, Mr. Wilson, I need to swear you in. So, under the pains and penalties of perjury, do you solemnly swear that the evidence you give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And have you received a copy of our rules of procedure?
No, I have not.
Therese, did Mr. Wilson receive those? I think you sent them out to everyone, correct?
Yes, they went out to everyone. The initial response.
So we can do two things, sir. If you want, we can postpone this hearing to receive so that you can receive the rules of procedure, or we can proceed. That's up to you.
So I'm happy to proceed.
Okay, great. Thank you. Members of the Board of Civil Authority, are there any conflicts of interest or ex parte communications?
no.
No,
Nope. All right. Russ, brief description of the property, please.
Okay, the property is located at 323 Boyd Hill Road. It has 10.2 acres. The current assessment is $685,360. And it's got a contemporary house. It's a log house, primary log construction. That's it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Russ. Mr. Wilson, would you like to present your case to the Board of Civil Authority, please?
Yes. I did send in materials that I believe you have available.
Yes, we have.
But before I get into that, I would like to ask a couple of questions. I just received the September 21st analysis on the comparative properties, and I was hoping that someone could give me a brief description as to how this comparison works and how these numbers are calculated and what they really mean.
I think Russ, when he testifies later, can provide that information to you.
Okay. Well, I know that once he speaks, I'm not allowed to ask any further questions. Is that correct?
No, you can speak, as long as we're trying to be brief with our testimony, you may be able to ask questions.
Okay. Well, we purchased this house back in 2007, and there have been reevaluations since then. To be honest with you, I have never paid much attention to them. I recently am in the process of retiring, and I got the new assessments, and I looked at them this time carefully. When we first moved, our assessment was pretty comparable with the neighboring properties. And now I'm finding that our assessment is significantly higher than our neighboring properties that are somewhat similar. There are some significant differences with regard to outbuildings and rental apartments and things like that. But by and large, the properties that I'm speaking of are all about 10 acres. And if you look at my Excel spreadsheet, you can see that my property is now valued at $685,000 versus a low of 518 and a middle range of 537 and 548,000. There are some differences with these properties. I believe my property card has my square footage a little bit higher than it actually is. I believe it's 2,930 square feet. You have it listed as over 3,000 square feet. So the biggest thing that I'm concerned about is not necessarily the market values that you have placed on the property. The biggest thing is the difference between what you've placed on my property as a market value versus the other properties in my neighborhood. And I can't for the life of me rationalize why I would have such a high assessment rate when my neighbors with comparable properties are significantly lower. I don't know what happened over the years, why the gap is widened, but it has widened very significantly. So I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you look at the analysis that I did, it pretty much indicates that our rate is significantly higher than comparable properties. So that's pretty much what our whole basis is for questioning the assessment.
And thank you very much. Russ, would you like to respond, please?
Sure. So yeah, when we received the grievance information from the property owner, there was a discrepancy in the finished living area, which would make a difference. So that's something that needs to be checked out. So if we have the square footage, we have 3299. If that is incorrect or high for whatever reason, we have to look at the drawing and make sure that the drawing is updated to conform to the proper square footage. there's, the square footage is created by the sketch drawing. If this drawing is not put in exactly right, then there could be discrepancy. There was the prior assessors for the town. They went into the property. We didn't go in because we're doing statistical update. And they calculated the upper floor as 655 square feet. If that's not correct, but they did interior measurements to come up with that square footage. But if there's anything else on the sketch that it should be checked. If we have a discrepancy in square footage, we need to fix it. The issue of, so when we do comparables, to explain my comparables, we try to find properties in your neighborhood that are similar properties to yours. And so there was actually 2 sales right on Boyd Hill, number 321 and number 405 that sold. One sold in 22, one sold in 23, and then there was another one on Haskell Hill Road, sold in 2022. So the system, that was the only 3 comparables that I could find. And the system automatically makes adjustments for the differences in the data. So it compares the square footage, makes an adjustment for square footage, makes adjustments for plumbing, makes adjustments for bedrooms and baths. And then when it gets done, it creates a value down at the bottom on the left on that spreadsheet, the comparable spreadsheet. And it's saying that according to the comparables, the value of your house would be higher than actually what we have on it. But we don't use the comparables directly. It's just a reference. So it's just to see if it's in sync, or at least represents something close to what we have for the market value that we have on it. So that's what the market comparable. It's the same system, the same type of comparable analysis that fee appraiser would use. So if somebody's doing a bank appraisal, or if you hired an appraiser to do an appraisal on your property, he would have a spreadsheet very similar to this that would show all the comparables and the adjustments that are made for all the different criteria on the property. So the question I had is that, whether if we need to correct the square footage if that's incorrect. Now, also we have basement finished of 844 square feet. If that's in question, that would affect the value. And there's a small outbuilding on the property. There's just a 10 by 16 shed. Other than that, there's no other outbuildings. And it's a solid log home. And I looked up, like I mentioned in one of the other cases, we look at the real estate websites. We look at realtor.com, we look at Zillow, we look at Redfin, and to see if we're in line with what they're estimating the value of your property is. We don't use anything directly, it's just a reference to see if we're on track. And realtor.com said the value of your property should be $818,000. Zillow said it should be $757,000. And Redfin, which is another one, they estimated it $724,000. So there's a correlation there between the different other companies, and our value seems to be in line with what they're coming up with, and a little bit less actually. I guess that's all I have for now.
Oh, am I allowed to ask questions at this point?
In just a minute, I just want to have the Board of Civil Authority ask questions, and you can ask a couple of questions.
Okay.
Does anybody on the Board of Civil Authority have any questions for either Russ or Mr. Wilson? I do have one question, which is, Mr. Wilson, what value are you seeking tonight for this property?
I'm seeking a value more in line with 550,000.
So
And
your
I'll
value is
explain. 550.
All right.
And
Go ahead, Mr. Wilson.
I'll explain that the comparable properties that I have here run from 518,000 up to 548,000. On the analysis that your computer did, if you would look at the first property, which is 321 Boyd Hill Road, the computer comes up with a market value of 847,260 based on the pluses and minuses as compared to my property. That property is valued, it's assessed for 548,160. I have no argument with the values that you are talking about with regard to what these specialty companies have assessed. For example, Zillow. I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. What I do have a problem with is that I appear to be singled out with a much higher assessment than neighbors that do have comparable properties. This property sold for $750,000 2 to 3 years ago, which would seem to indicate that, yes, you're absolutely right. My property is worth more than what I'm asking for as an assessment, but I believe that as a vacation owner there, I should be entitled to some equity with regard to what other properties are being assessed on the street and in my neighborhood. I don't feel that I should be paying more than what comparable properties in my neighborhood are paying. That's the crux of my problem with this whole thing. And then if you also look at fourth, I believe it's it's 435 Boyd Hill Road. If you go on Zillow and you look at that property, you will find that property has 5 bedrooms and 3 baths, 3 full baths. Your property card, I believe, only shows 3, and the square footage is well over 3,000 square feet on Zillow, and your property card shows a significantly less amount of square footage. So it appears to me that I can't make any sense as to how these values are being calculated and how I am being treated fairly in comparison to other properties that are assessed in the same neighborhood. So that is the crux of it all. I don't think I should be assessed higher than what my neighbors are being assessed for. Some of my neighbors actually have better lots. They have outbuildings, they have rental apartments over barns and things like that. None of that information appears on the property cards. So, you know, I just want equity is what I'm looking for here. And when we, as I said before, when we moved in, these properties that I'm listing here, I was right in with all of them as far as what the town of Wilmington was assessing. And I don't know how it's happened, but over the years, it's gotten the gap has become much too big.
Thank you.
You're
so
welcome.
What we need to do now is we need to inspect the property, and obviously, as has been mentioned, there seems to be a discrepancy in the living area, so that's something we'll check when we inspect the property, but we need to come up with a date and time to actually do that inspection.
What is the position as far as the assessor's department is concerned with my concern about not having equity as compared to other properties in my neighborhood?
Well, that you're before the Board of Civil Authority now, so it's really the Board of Civil Authority can look at that information, you know, but you know.
Is it the town's position to keep equity amongst property owners?
Well, I think what you should do is, and I believe Therese sent this to you, is there's the tax appeal handbook. I would take a look at that and how properties are valued by towns across the state of Vermont. And that will provide you with information about the process. It's not our responsibility as the Board of Civil Authority to answer specific questions, because we're actually, you know, the judge trying to make a decision about how to handle this case.
Okay.
And so we will provide you with a written decision after we've inspected your property.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay, so what would be a good date and time to inspect the property?
Well, I actually live in Connecticut. It's a part-time home. I will be up there on the 11th. And I should be in there on the 10th. If you have time for the 10th, that would work out fine.
10th or the 11th, okay. What do folks think about the 10th or the 11th? Bonnie, do either of those days work for you?
The 11th, that weekend is not good for me.
Okay, how about the 10th? That's
I'm
a
sorry.
The Thursday, the 10th.
I know, I'm just trying to see what that would be. I guess that would be all right.
All right. 10:10. How about Therese? Is that okay with you?
Did you say 3 p.m.?
We haven't set a time yet.
Oh.
We're still working on the date.
Okay. All right.
Is that okay?
Haven't said that yet. Always good for the time.
Okay. So, what time would work for you, Bonnie, to see the property?
Well, I like early morning, but I'm taking it that they won't be coming up early morning on the 10th. Is that correct?
That's correct. We probably won't be there until early afternoon. And if it's better for you the following Tuesday, that would work for us as well, and we could do it early.
I'm going to be out of town that following week, so
Okay,
the 11th, 12th, and 13th, that's just Columbus Day weekend, so I'm going to
Right.
be swamped with that, working. So I guess we could do it at 3 o'clock on the 10th?
Does that work for you, Mr. Wilson?
yes, that will work fine if that works for everybody.
All right, let me just check. Therese, Tom, does that work for you guys?
Tom, 3 o'clock, October 10th. Good.
All right, great. We have a date and a time. Thank you very much,
All right.
Mr. Wilson, for testifying this evening, and thank you for taking the time to go through this process. I know it's not easy or hard to. It's not hard. It's not easy to understand. I understand that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we will now move on to our next hearing, which is actually a continuation of a previous hearing that we had 2 weeks ago. Let me just. Okay, so the first hearing will be AW Realty, HS Sunset.LND open land. I think we have a new witness, Lynn, that's you. I only see the top of your head, but I believe, okay. So you've already been sworn in this case. And I guess, Allison, you're also going to be testifying, is that correct? Oh, you're muted, Allison. As are you, Lynn.
There you go. Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
All right, so we're going to need to swear you in.
Okay.
So under the pains and please raise your right hand. Under the pains and penalties of perjury, do you solemnly swear that the evidence you give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. Have you seen a copy of the rules of procedure?
Yes.
Great. Board of Civil Authority, are there any conflicts of interest or ex parte communications?
None here.
None.
No. Well, I will disclose that when we did do the property inspection, Lynn did talk to us and showed us a map of the property. So I just want to make sure that that's on the record. Is that correct, Lynn?
I can't hear you.
Allison, can you hear me?
I can. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Barely.
Russ, you obviously can hear me because we've been talking.
Yeah, I
All
can hear
right,
you fine.
I'm talking very loud.
Okay, good.
All right.
And just for the record, so Hans Husey is also on the call, and he's also representing AW Realty, just to
Okay.
be clear.
Okay, he was at the earlier hearing.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay, great. All right, I know we have 2 new property cards. So Russ, do you just want to explain what's changed on the new property cards? And then we can go into the hearing.
Okay, so I don't have them in front of me. I didn't have them in my schedule, but that's
Oh,
okay.
sorry.
I know, that's fine. I remember what I did. So, yeah, the two parcels in question, I revalued them in by standard procedure based on any other property in that neighborhood. So we take if it's a buildable site, then we take the first 2 acres as a vacant house site. And then the rest goes into the bucket called excess acres. And so these properties now are valued the same way as all the other properties in the neighborhood based on undeveloped lot. So the values have been reduced. I think they went down maybe 20, 25%, something like that. So the value was reduced based on using standard procedure. And we tossed out the issue of the undivided interest because it didn't look like it applied. The only maps that were available were these handcrafted, drawings. But so that's the value that I came up with based on those 2 properties. So unless there's something else, I changed the location of the airport property because I don't think it had the only way to access it from what I could see is through the airport. And so I addressed it I put the same address as the airport because it's connected.
For
All right.
sorry, can I ask a clarifying question or?
Sure. Well, you can start talking
Okay.
now.
Okay. Yeah. So Russ, when you said you connected with the same address, which one, Sunset or Quaker?
The airport.
Just talking about Sunset?
Yeah, just on the airport. The airport property, I changed it to the same address as the Dover Airport.
Oh.
It's accessed, so it could be changed to whatever is the best identification. But appearing on the maps, that's obviously the way you're going to get to it is through the airport.
So I didn't get a new card for the airport property. I just got new cards for Sunset and Quaker. Did you reevaluate airport?
No, it's our understanding from the testimony that was given at our last hearing that the appeal on that property.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So yeah, so that didn't change. It's just it was just Sunset and the other 2 properties. So
just to clarify, it was that because you were changing it, it was not a residential home site. You were going to make that correction. So we still need to see the revised card with that correction made. That was the stipulation that we said, as long as you made that correction that you had told me you were going to make, then there wouldn't be any further.
Yeah, that was done. Yeah, that was done.
Yeah, Ally, that's what you sent me. But Russ, the thing I'm totally confused about is the acreage on the 2 properties changed. So Quaker on the old property card, hang on, was like 10.
Well, that wasn't if you look at, there was a correlation to the number of undivided interests. So that that wasn't an acreage. So we found quite a few properties in town. They weren't valued. What was in there wasn't acreage, it was the number of lots. So I hopefully corrected those 2 parcels with the correct acreage that we got from the GIS map and from the state GIS map.
Okay, so let's back up. So is the map you're using not the town tax map? The, hang on, I don't know what it's called.
So
The
Lynn,
Mango map?
Lynn, the purpose of this hearing is not to ask questions of the assessor. You need to present your case now. We've gone through providing you with new property cards based on the last hearing. So now you need to present the evidence you want to provide.
Well, sir,
with respect
sir,
to-
if I could just make one comment. We were given cards that showed us owning 10 acres, one 10-acre lot and one 17-acre lot. We now have cards that show us owning one 19-acre lot and one 80-acre lot. We have no idea where these acres supposedly are. We don't know what map is being used. We don't know, how can we argue that it's all wetland if we don't even know where it is? We thought we owned 20 acres and you're telling us it's 80. We thought we owned 10, you're now telling us it's 20. We're very confused and we've gotten no explanation for this change in acreage.
And in the original documents I provided for the initial hearing 2 weeks ago, there's a document called East Track Detail with Pictures. Do you all still have that available?
Yes, we do.
Because in that, that's straight from the GIS parcel viewer. And you can see, for example, Sunset, that now says it's 80 acres. The GIS parcel viewer in that document shows that it is 19.1 acres. And so for Quaker, I'll just show you the same thing. You can look at those when you have a chance, but that one said 10.
Okay, Allison, I need to apologize. We do not have those documents.
Okay, well, I submitted them before the prior.
Okay, well, we just need to get them into the record. Therese?
They're in your folder. It says new for 9/25.
New for, where the heck is that?
The file folder inside of AW Realty.
Okay, where? New materials? Okay, I got it. Thank you. All right, go ahead, Allison. I apologize.
Yeah, that's good. So this is just the source of the confusion, right? Is I had pulled these from the GIS viewer, and so it's got all 6 for the 6 East tracts. So if you look at Quaker, HS Quaker, that's the last item for today, and then HS Sunset, the first one. The GIS parcel viewer shows Quaker as having 10 acres, and it shows Sunset as having 19.10 acres. So that was where we got the initial numbers, and the prior tax cards showed those numbers also for the acreage.
Okay.
Can I speak?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't think those acreages were right. The only thing I used, I went to the state GIS map. I printed the maps out, and the acreage that's on those 2 properties came from the state GIS map. It shows the parcels, it shows the acreage. I actually traced the acreage, I actually traced the property, and the acreage matched what was displayed from the state. So the only way to correct it, to make sure it's right, is you have to go to the deeds. So you can't just use the GIS maps. That's not, the deed trumps everything. So whatever's in the deed, how many acres there are, then that's going to be the final decision.
I have copies
Unless
of
there's a survey, unless there's a survey, a recent survey done? Is there any recent surveys done?
No, there isn't. I actually went on other apps, just
Okay,
looking.
We're not gonna get into debate about apps. Has anybody looked at?
Well, we're talking about the acreage, John.
So has anybody looked at the deeds?
Yeah, I have the deeds. They're not specific to acreage. They say, from here to here, here to here. So, unfortunately, I think a survey is what's going to have to be done, because I wish that the deeds said, this is X acres. That's not how they were written, unfortunately.
I think what would be helpful is we've gone and looked at certain information and we got acreage that matched up with the town's original tax bills. The assessor has gone and gotten information that does not match up to those tax bills. We need to know what map he looked at so that we can look at that map and look at the map we're looking at and try and figure out, are they the same and they just have different acreage, or are we looking at completely different maps?
I use the state parcel viewer GIS map.
Allison, isn't that what you used?
Correct. That's what this is pulled from. It's the,
I'm
it's
not
the
sure,
same.
I'm not sure how we explain this. Allison has a print off of it right there with the lower acreages.
No, she said she had the same one, said 80 acres for that.
No,
No, that's not true. Did you all provide that also to Russ when I submitted that? Or is only BCA have this document?
He has access to the same folders that we do.
Yeah, these, I know it's hard for you to try to read through the screen here, but here is Sunset. This is the printout from the state GIS map, and you can see it says it's 19.10 acres.
Yes, I see that.
I mean, it's the state GIS map.
But that's the same number that I had, isn't it? For that
No,
parcel?
you had 80 acres for Sunset. And then for Quaker, this says it's 10. So I don't know, that was why we were confused. Because I mean, that's.
Now I'm wondering if the span numbers are correct. If the span numbers are wrong. So I went by the span number.
Well, it's, I've got it's showing the actual, you can see the parcel highlighted in blue.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
I mean, it's the right, that's the one. Because I know what you're saying. Sometimes it could be like the one next to it or, if
Right,
it's-
yeah. Well, that's something we have to check. So I did what I could find, so it's possible I didn't do it correctly. But I can double check it. I can do the screenshots of the map that I used.
can we email you the ones that Allison's done or make sure that you have them so that you can look at what you see and what we've done and see if there's a difference?
Yeah, so if those maps are in your packet that you submitted, then I can just go back in and look at what I had and to see how it compares.
They're in the Dropbox, and I can confirm what Allison said is what's on the two property GIS maps.
Okay.
So
Where do we go from here?
well, I think sadly, we need to continue this hearing again.
So if sometimes there's deep plotting software, if you have meets and bounds, they sell a software package where you can put the meets and bounds in if you don't have a survey, and it'll generate the acreage if there's no acreage in the deeds.
Well, I tell you what, if you look at the maps on your end, I will go to, our firm may have something like that, and we will try and see if we can generate an acreage from the meets and bounds also.
Okay, good, great. Okay.
Okay, so I'll take that. I'll send you those, Hans, if I haven't already.
All right, I'm just gonna send you an email now, so.
Right.
Okay.
All right, so we have the same issue with both properties. So I've been talking about both of those properties. So this year, so we will continue this until next week. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm sorry too if I made a mistake.
I don't think anybody actually knows. It's just that you're taking data from basically 50 to 70 years ago. And, through changes of people at the town, I'm not sure any of it's, let's say, I wouldn't write my name in stone on any of it. I mean, you're dealing with the information that is there, and how accurate it is, I think, is suspect.
Okay, so we'll get those deeds and see if we can't recreate that, and then we can match it up against what you're able to find, Russ, and hopefully we can get to something that makes sense to everybody.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Board of Sewer Authority, don't go anywhere, but we are continuing this hearing.
How do I get out?
You,
Okay, I'm still here. You need me?
Nope, I don't think so. Thank you very much for your time tonight, Russ.
Well, thank you. Yeah, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Russ.
All right.
Russ is still with us.
You-
Oh, there he goes.
There we go.
You have
So
three
no one else,
you
no
have
one
three,
else is there.
you have three inspection reports that you could read into. Although two are Sunset and Quaker, which are now, and if you read it in, you start the 15-day clock. So you're gonna have to wait on that one.
I think
You
we
do
will.
have, you have Lieber inspection report from Meg,
Okay,
and you can read in the report, and then that means we deliberate for a decision, and a decision has to be sent out within 15 days.
okay, so the only challenge with that is that Meg agreed to write the decision. And she's not here tonight.
Right. You can wait.
Yeah, I think we should wait till next week. Is that okay with everybody?
Yep, we won't be colliding with other stuff yet because we were delayed on the that other set of inspections until what, Monday? So, well, Monday the 7th.
Yeah, we have some on the 1st.
So
and some
now
on
the
the
next,
7th.
yeah, so on the 1st would be the next set of inspections. So that's okay, that will work.
Yeah.
Um,
AW Realty is just, I mean, we can't seem to get an agreement on anything on those properties. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens.
Yep.
At some point, because I've not been a part of that, but at some point, if you're so at odds, you may have to have a survey. If they want something beyond what you guys get, then they have to present a survey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I need, well, I need to understand what the legal requirement is for the town when there is a discrepancy in acreage. I mean, who has the burden of proof or documentation? And I don't know that at this point. So that's something I'm gonna have to look into. Because I don't know if we're gonna reach an agreement at the next.
Hang on, Tom. Hang on, Tom. I don't know if you want, do you want this on record? What Tom is saying that he agrees with Bonnie's statement of they may need
They may need a survey. Yeah.
to go to a survey.
I don't think we should go any further than that because it's still continued hearing.
Yep.
All right.
So then you can adjourn.
All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you very much. This was a long night. And have a good night.
All right, letting you go, Tom.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye. Good night.
So Therese.